Yo, what's up guys? Joshua here with Ignite PPC. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the expectations of how, PPC in your virtual wholesaling operation and kind of showing you the difference between fantasy versus reality in terms of getting this scaled out, how much time it takes, everything you need to expect. I'm going to break down in this video for you. So if you're new to the channel, just really quick, we want to let you know what we talk about on this channel is scaling investors to multiple six figures per month with inbound marketing in their real estate wholesaling and flipping business. We work with both virtual and local companies, regardless of what kind of operation you run. In this specific video, though, we're going to be talking about the virtual operators and breaking down everything on their business, right? So happy to jump in here, guys. On the screen here, you should be able to see this little thing that says the fantasy versus reality of PPC in virtual real estate investing. So really quick, just before we get into the stuff down here, the number one reason why I see real estate investors fail is really because they are paying for advice, hiring coaches, gurus, so on, and getting told expectations of things that should happen in terms of the numbers, but aren't reality, right? I'll give you an example. There's somebody out there that says, hey, for every $1,000 I put in, I get a contract and I get a $20,000 deal. We all know that that's not true, right? As much as we want it to be true and we want that to actually be reality of the business, if that was true, everybody would be worth millions and millions of dollars in this business, and there would be no need to really pay anybody to even coach them because, come on, like that's ridiculous, right? So in this video, I'm going to be showing exactly the realistic numbers to really scale out the virtual operation in terms of PPC spend, what kind of capital you need to put away, what kind of runway you need to give yourself, what your team can look like initially, and then long term, and so on. And so I put together a really cool video for you guys today. But I'm going to make myself smaller so we can just kind of start with everything. So again, expectations are set wrong. And I think the most important thing here, especially when going into something new with expectations, is to kind of figure out like what your foundation should be to make strategic decisions in terms of how much money you need to actually get this to work, right? So on the screen here, you can kind of see initially what a solo operator looks like versus a scaled out team. I'm going to talk about what things you're going to be paying for initially if you're a new solo operator and what happens long term as you scale. So for everybody, it doesn't matter, if you're new, if you are been in the business for a little bit, you have to spend money on marketing, right? So like that's a hard cost in this business, regardless. You have to pay yourself as an owner, right? So like you as the owner need to have some level of W-2 or consistent income that's a base on paper that is not just, hey, I'm taking distributions from the company, anything like that, right? Most people will pay an acquisitions base and then software, and of course if you hire other employees and so on, these things scale, which I'll show you guys later, right? So if you're a solo operator, let's say you have yourself, you have one acquisition rep, you got to pay yourself as well, paying for some software and then some miscellaneous stuff. Let's say that your total spend per month is $21,000, right? So the way that I sit down with real estate investors and really make sure that they're set up for success is making sure that they have the runway required to actually see the plan through before even starting it, right? So again, if we're talking about the foundation here, you need 6 months of operational runway before you spend a dollar on ads, before you increase anything, right? So let's say you're a solo operator, which this says solo operator, but in this case you have one acquisition rep, right? You're spending 12 grand a month on marketing. You're paying yourself 5 grand a month for a base. This is what you're going to pay your personal bills with. You're giving your acquisition a base of $2,000, and then you have a couple $1,000s in miscellaneous software, right? Now, obviously, at this level, you're not making a lot of money in terms of what you're paying yourself. You're like doing the bare minimum because you're a small operation. You just got to stay small long enough until one day you'll be big, all right? If you say small, I forget the saying, if you say small long enough, you'll be big enough soon enough. Something like that, right? But here, we're spending 21 grand a month. Basically, your runway in the bank account today before committing to this, you have to have $126,000 in the bank, okay? So assuming you're getting a healthy return on ad spend at 5.5x, which is totally realistic with, virtual wholesaling, you're going to be taking in 66 grand a month with your overhead of 21 grand. Gross before any commissions have been paid out, you'll be netting about $38,000 a month. Now, this is assuming that you're doing all of, these numbers are consistent, right? You're not spending way more one month. You're not like changing things around left and right every single month. And obviously, this is not what you're making in month 1 or month 2 and so on. So I'm going to show you that as well, how long it takes for you to actually make your money back from your initial months, and how long it really takes you to start to see the fruits of your labor. Okay. This is on the small team size, the I wouldn't say small team, actually, like decent team size, 3 acquisition reps, no managers. You have yourself as the owner of the business / operator manager. You have your dispo rep, you have your transaction coordinator, and you're paying for software, right? This is if you're completely virtual. Maybe you have an office that you're paying for. Maybe there's some other miscellaneous things in there that you have. And I have a really cool calculator I can show you guys later that you'll get access to if you stay around to play with some of these numbers. But assuming that this stays the same, everything's good, you'll be spending 64 grand a month. You'll need a runway of $84,000 before committing to this in the bank today. And over time, you're going to be netting $113,000 a month, assuming that all this stays static, which we know, there's going to be some fluctuations up and down month over month, right? So why do we need to do 6 months to really make this, work, right? It takes 2.5 months for the cash conversion cycle with PPC. So we'll talk about this a little more later. It usually takes, I put 6 months here, but it's really like 4 to 5 months for the channel to mature in terms of, seeing your pipeline close, really getting deals, and revenue back in the business. It can be as soon as, sometimes month 2, month 3 is a little more realistic, but month 4, it's like, hey, guaranteed at this point, we should really be closing deals. Things are good, right? And we're also kind of accounting for some variance in a learning curve to give you that good 6-month runway, okay? So again, if we're talking about fantasy versus reality, fantasy, this is a 30-day fantasy. I'll spend 2 grand and see a return in 30 days, or I'll spend 5 grand and see a return in 30 days. This is a lie that bankrupts investors. Basically, the math just can literally not work fast enough for you to get your money back, to reinvest, to really make a living off of that. It's just not going to work, right? So the reality of this is I'm capitalized to fund this for 6 months, and I'm ready to see this through. These are the operators who have strategically planned and done the right thing to get themselves set up for success. Now, before we continue, before I jump into the ad spend side of things and start talking about marketing, I do want to talk about if you're not able to do this yet, okay? So obviously, if you're brand new to the business, you're like, man, I want to do this stuff, but I don't have 126 grand in the bank. I can't afford to spend 21 grand a month for 6 months, right? Now, you don't need to have you're not obviously going to spend 126 grand and make $0 in 6 months. You're going to start closing deals month 3, month 4. It's just, you want to give yourself 6 months so that way you have plenty of a runway and you're not over leveraging yourself and making short-term decisions, knee-jerk reactions. You can check out other videos on my channel. I have one about this, I think a couple of videos back, that explains why you need to prepare like this versus, giving yourself a 2-month runway, 3-month runway, so on, right? Again, you're going to just make bad decisions emotionally if you give yourself too short of a runway, okay? So let's talk about the ad spend, foundation once you're ready to scale, okay? Let's pause here. Going back to this, if you don't have this, right, you got to do, and this is why I was bringing this up, you have to do hustle marketing, right? And what I mean by hustle marketing is you literally need to get on the dialer. You need to, text blast. You need to do the marketing and grunt work that nobody wants to do, and just get 126 grand in the bank, right? Get that capital stacked up in the bank before you commit to these things and these decisions. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure, okay? And as the owner of Ignite PPC, I'm telling you guys this because I want to make sure that all the relationships that we ever build, if we ever do build one, are phenomenal relationships. I could take your money if you didn't have this, and I could set you up for failure, but that's not in my best interest, and it's not in your best interest. I'd rather that you be prepared and really do this the right way, because we really want to have a long-term, win-win, badass relationship with everyone we work with, right? So let's jump into the ad spend foundation portion of it. Again, if we're talking about fantasy, to validate a channel and to get something to really work, you need to spend 10 to 15 grand per month per rep, right? Really the sweet spot to feel the fruits of your labor in this business in terms of hey, I'm getting enough leads to make a volume of offers to close contracts and so on is 15K a month. If you're at 15K a month, man, it just feels like you can't lose, because no matter what, you're signing contracts, every week. You have deals closing, you have multiple deals closing every month, no matter what, and things are just, they're good, right? So 10 to 15K per month per rep. I don't know why this basically repeated itself. You can spend below 10K per month on PPC for sure. So you can spend 5 to 10K per month on PPC for sure, but you just got to plan. You got to make sure that you're patient enough for it to, start to work and you see the fruits of your labor, right? Fantasy, in terms of when the business takes off, month 1, month 2, this is a fantasy, all right? Not going to happen. The reality is that it takes about 6 months for this business to really take off and for you to start seeing profits, for you to, start feeling like you're a winner, really make the money that you want, and so on, okay? Let's talk about the full funnel metrics and what it actually takes to close deals in terms of the financials. And this is where the expectations are set wrong for a lot of people, right? You got coaches out here saying, hey, you put $3,000 in, you're going to get $30 leads, you're going to close 1 in 20, and you're going to pay $600 per contract, $1,000 per deal, and you're going to make 20 grand per deal. Yeah, that's bullshit, right? We all know that, okay? So really what is important here is that we're talking about realistic numbers that exist in reality based on millions and millions of dollars of ad spend. And this is what we're seeing in 2026 today, not in 2021, not in 2020. This is today, 2026, okay? So if you're a virtual operator and you're plugging directly into our systems, you want the stuff that's actually working in terms of location targeting, marketing channels we're running you after. You're going to get a $125 to $160 cost per lead. This can vary month over month, of course, right? Your cost per qualified lead is going to be anywhere between $350 to $600. Now, a qualified lead for us is somebody who, number one, they pick up the phone. It is the homeowner. It's not listed. And then number 4, this is the most important part, is it's within your buy box, meaning that you could dispo the deal if they were to accept your offer, right? Cost per contract, the reality here is that you're looking at anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 cost per contract, and then $2,500 to $4,500 per closing. Sometimes even a little more at $5,000 per closing. Depends, right? Now, all of these numbers are okay when your performance, returns, and timing make sense, okay? So again, fantasy return on ad spend, 15 to 1, 25 to 1 return on ad spend. That's crazy. For most virtual operators, you're going to be between a 4 and a 7x return on ad spend, okay? If you're below a 4x return on ad spend, you got to fix something in your business, right? That's why I'm saying you can pay up to $5 grand per deal. If you're getting a $20,000 average deal size, that would give you a 4x return on ad spend. Ideally, we really are between 5 and 6x. The great operator is going to be 7x. We have some guys who are even higher than that, but it's just, I'd be cherry picking it at that point. 4x to 7x is definitely viable, okay? From here, we got our average deal size that's blended. Definitely fantasy to be shooting above 30K for virtual. All right, $20,000 to $30,000 if you're doing wholesaling plus novations. if you're below 20 grand, you need to fix your sales process. You need to underwrite deeper. You need to underwrite better, or you need to make sure that you're just not like trying to make every lead a deal, right? Like I'm saying, you may spend up to $4,500 per closing. If you're trying to spend $3,000 a month and you're like forcing deals to happen, then you can have a lower average deal size sometimes. Okay. Realistic contract conversions from contract to actual closing. AI messed this up. So 35 to 65% of the contracts that you sign are actually going to turn into a closed deal. All right. 65 on the higher percent once you're dialed in. Usually for most operators, it's like 45, 50% right there. And if you're like really bad and you just don't have your shit together, 35%. Okay. Cash conversion cycle. This one is so big, guys. It is super important. The moment a lead is created to the day you get paid on it is your cash conversion cycle. So here I have it basically set at 2.5 months. That is extremely fast for PPC, or for marketing in this business. And the reason why it's so fast is because we're talking about PPC here. If this was cold calling, this would be like 6 months. All right. So you guys have to understand this is the power of PPC, not only just because of the lead quality, the better conversations, it doesn't burn out your reps, so on. But this here is why it's just so phenomenal compared to other channels is your cash conversion cycle. So reality is 75 days, 2.5 months for you to get paid back from when you put $1 into marketing to the money going back into your bank account. Okay. Typically 90% of the leads that you're going to generate are going to sign a contract within the first 2 weeks. And then from contract signed to actual contracts getting closed, it's about 58 days on average, blended between wholesale and novations. Okay. Super important. So let's talk about hey, what is the actual play here? Number one is capitalize properly, set yourself up for 6 months of operating expenses. Don't shortchange yourself. Plan for an average deal size of anywhere between $3,000 to maybe $5,000 at the very high end. Obviously you can get cheaper deals than $3,000 a deal. Some months can happen, but just don't plan on it to be the regular long-term performance. Okay. Return on ad spend. I like to make all my projections off of 4X. We'll talk about that here in a second. Number 3, build the operations before spending all this money. Okay. So when you go to scale, make sure you've actually proven out your sales processes. If you are solo, you've proven out your sales processes. You know that you're getting the return on ads from the channel. You can actually do more of it and it's actually going to work. All right. Number 4, measure the full funnel metrics, right? Measure all of this stuff here to make sure that you know where things are going, where they're headed. Number 5, give it 6 months before you even start to judge what's happening, right? There's a lot of stuff that we're not talking about in this video specifically in terms of diagnosing an operation and what needs to tweak. There is a variance or learning curve that you're going to be going through if you're brand new to this model, okay? Number 6, reality is not bad news. So these numbers are not bad news, guys. This is phenomenal to know this stuff if you're interested in doing this or you're already doing this, because it allows you to build a business the right way instead of beating your head against the wall, trying to get false expectations to work, trying to live in fantasy land with whatever a coach or guru sold you and just being stuck there. It really sucked, right? So if you sticked around this long in the video and you want to, I'm going to show you guys, we're going to open up this calculator here. I'm going to show you, if you want this calculator that breaks down how to plan everything for yourself, reach out to me on Instagram. My IG will be in the description of the video, or just hit me up on Facebook. Either one's fine. But you guys can use this tool yourself and make your financial projections in terms of payback time, net profit, some realistic stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly run through one with you guys and kind of show you what it looks like. If you were to work with us as a solo operator, or maybe not a solo operator, I'm looking for somebody who has at least one acquisition rep, ideally 2 acquisition rep, but in this example, 1 acquisition rep, and they're wanting to scale the business or like get it, get some proof of concept going and running, right? So 1 acquisition rep. I'm not going to include the dispo rep on this, but if you do, you can make the changes here. So 1 acquisition rep. I'm going to say that we're spending $12,500 a rep, right? So this is marketing spend per rep here. You as the owner need to be paid because you have personal bills. So I'm going to say you as the owner, you're paying yourself a $5,000 salary every single month. All right? You got your acquisition rep. Maybe you give them a base of $2,000 a month. You can change this if needed. You're spending $1,000 a month on software, and then you're spending, let's say, another, $1,500 a month on just like miscellaneous crap that you have. I did not include an office on here because this is for a virtual team, but if you want to include an office in here, just put it into the miscellaneous. All right? So, return on ad spend for marketing. Let's do 5x right here. If you want to be super conservative, you can do 4x. Okay? Ramp to full return on ad spend. I'm going to put this at 4 months. Okay? So basically what this means, like you can put it down to 3 months, but this is basically telling us that, hey, we're not really starting to close deals until month 4. Month 3 is pretty realistic as well. We'll look at both numbers. But month 4, let's say, hey, I put a couple deals together today, and in month 1, some of those are probably going to close, maybe end of month 2, month 3, but typically it's like, hey, month 4 is where we really start to see the fruits of our labor. All right, and then cash conversion cycle. How many months is it taking for us to get paid back? So I put 2.5 months here, just like we have in our example. You can make this a little longer if you want. You can make it a little shorter, but for this example, 2.5%. Okay? Or sorry, 2.5 months. And then commissions. You have to pay your acquisition rep a commission percentage. If you're giving them a base of $2,000, you can get away with giving them an 8% commission. If you're not giving them a base, you're going to probably give them, 15%. I'm going to say 8%. If you're hiring virtual reps like, in Mexico or Colombia, you can even get away with giving them like 6% plus 1,500 as a base. You can change all that if you'd like. Let's say 8%. Right? Okay, cool. So you guys can see here on the map that if all of these numbers are true, you are spending $22,000 a month, which means you need $132,000 in the bank to start this. Your revenue, once it's fully scaled out, if we're at a 4x return on ad spend, you're going to be making about $62,000 a month. And net to the owner after the expenses you're paying to, your acquisition rep for software, for miscellaneous, and so on, you're going to be netting about, $37,000 a month, which equates to $447,000 a year, right? That's a good amount of money for a lot of people, right? $450,000 before taxes. That's pretty good, right? It's this portion right here that most people get stuck. They freak out. They can't endure it. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys here at the bottom what some of the numbers look like. So it's like, hey, month 1 we spent $22,000. We didn't really make any money. We obviously are paying our ad spend. We're paying ourselves. We're paying the rep. We're paying for software, so on. Month 2, we didn't close anything because we're just building the pipeline. So hey, we've spent $44,000 at this point. It's taking a little time. Month 3, hey, we're at $66,000 and spend still nothing. Then bam, right? Month 4, you really don't lose any more money at this point. You're not losing any more money. So you can see this is going down. Boom. We're still negative total $64,000, but I net $1,400, right? Bam, here we're 48. Bam, here we're at 18. Now I'm positive. Now I'm actually in month 6, month 5. I'm netting $17,000. I'm netting $32,000. This is in addition to your salary that you have. Okay. Now, of course, like this is all being conservative, So if you, let's say, start closing deals on month 3, then this is what the numbers look like. Okay? I don't know why it's not showing here. I got a little bug in the calculator potentially. But you guys will not go red this long. Usually month 3 is where it's like, hey, we're hitting, right? And the beautiful thing about this business is that if you spend 12 grand in this first month and you have your operation right, you're closing minimum 2 deals, but really 3 to 4 deals, okay? Which equates to, between 40 to call it 80 grand on the high end, which means that you may not even endure this in month 3, right? Month 2, you may even have a closing, starts to work out. And the reason why, guys, I'm doing all this is I want to attract operators who understand this stuff, guys. I really want to make sure that I'm giving you the full picture of what it takes to run this properly, to really, really, see this through in your business. If we want to do this in a, with a larger operation where we have 3 acquisition reps, we got a TC, we got a, dispo. It's like, okay, cool. We're paying acquisition 8%. We're paying, let's make this 10% just for the sake of it. 10%. We're paying dispo 6%. We're paying, transaction coordinator 3%, right? You're going to need 384 grand in the bank today before you do this, just to do it comfortably. And again, let me say it takes 3 months here. You're getting a 5.5x return. Bam, takes a little bit of time, but month 6, you're netting quite a bit of money. Month 5, month 6. Look at this. After you get through the really shitty time, you're netting, in addition to, you're netting 134 grand a month prior to commissions, and then after commissions, 108 grand a month, right? And this includes you still getting paid 15 G's a month. It's pretty awesome. Let me just add miscellaneous in here at 5K, because when you got a team this big, maybe let's say 5K for software, just for the sake of it, right? You're netting 102 grand a month, $1.2 million a year before taxes. If you live in California, yeah, it's gonna hurt to pay those taxes, but man, pretty fun business when you're here. And just imagine you are able to, at this monthly run rate, you're basically doing $2.4 million a year, right? Now imagine you can take this to, I really think the sweet spot is $4 million a year. Let's say you get 4 reps and you got 4 killers, so you can spend, 15 grand a month per rep, right? Well, you're almost doing 350 grand a month. You're netting before taxes $2.26 million a year. Obviously, these things would go up to, so let me just say miscellaneous. Let's just throw this at 15 grand. Maybe you're buying your team meals, doing crazy things. Maybe you got, some office space to pay for, whatever, right? Boom, $2 million a year, right? You got to do the hard part though, which is this. And if I push this back, say it takes 5 months, you got to do the hard part. Usually it's around month 6 where it's like, hey, you've made all your money back, all that. And you just got to understand the math, guys. Right? Month 6, you're no longer bleeding anything. You put the work in, you did everything you need to do. All right? So, with that being said, I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this video. Please keep in mind, all of the projections in this video are projections, right? These are not promises. This business does take actual work and effort to get to, scale it out to these levels. If you are interested in having this conversation for your operation specifically, and you want to talk about, the bottlenecks you have, with your marketing, with scaling, with anything that you need to do, reach out to me. There's a link in the description below. We can basically help you scale your entire operation. Obviously, by running your marketing, make sure that you get plugged into everything you need to be successful in that, and plugging you directly into what's already working, number one. But we'll also track all these numbers for you and then consult you on these numbers, so that way you can get pointed in the right direction and make sure that we're actually going to do this the right way. All right? So hope you guys get a ton of value out of this. If you want this calculator, DM me on Instagram, reach out to me on Facebook, and I'll send it to you. Take care.